It was another very good week for very bad news, but did anything good happen? Yeah, we'll tell you about it next on No Suck Saturday.
That was not nice.
I get you that time?
Yeah, you really did, because I thought you were still editing your other podcast, so I'm just sitting here chilling, playing my little game on my iPad.
How's that going?
It's kind of fun, honestly.
What is it?
So it's kind of similar to Scrabble. So you get like a slate of letters, and then you have to connect the letters to make different words.
Yeah, you've shown me that before. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's worse ways I could be spending my time. It's a good bathroom game. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, you got to have some pastimes like that when you're on the. Are we on the air? Oh, we are. Yeah. Welcome to No Suck Saturday. I'm Aaron. She is my beautiful wife, Bella, and we are here to hopefully remove the suckitude from the typical daily news cycle for just a few minutes. We appreciate each and every one of you. Of course, this is an episode we're making available to our broader audience who subscribe to the AM Update. Coming up in the next segment, it'll be the third edition of Ask Izzy, and we're looking forward to that. We've got a few listener submissions. If you would like to have a question answered by a nurse who knows a lot, you can do that. I think that's maybe our catchphrase.
I like that better.
A nurse who knows a lot.
I think originally it was like a nurse who's seen it all.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of things. There's still some things I haven't, and I'm okay with that.
Well, if you have a medical-related question or a question about healthy or clean living that you'd like to have answered by a nurse who knows, you can submit those to Ask Izzy NSS. Ask Izzy NSS. That's IZZY. AskIzzyNSS@gmail.com. We've got a couple of submissions that we'll get to on this edition of Ask Izzy. Coming up at the end of the show, we'll have our highlight of the week, which involves you in my case.
Uh-oh, am I in trouble?
No, highlight of the week.
Oh.
Highlight of the week.
Okay, good.
So it involves you,
good.
as well as our question of the week. We also have an announcement coming up at the end of this program as well. So with no further ado, let's get to without further ado, I should say.
No further ado.
No further ado. I'm good at the English.
We were homeschooled. It's okay.
Yes. We have 5 stories we think objectively don't suck. And we're going to begin with this one out of South Carolina. This might be the best thing you'll hear all day. I'll repost this video on the AM Update channel at Real AM Update on X. But this is the best thing you'll hear all day. Part of the college experience, of course, for a lot of students, is fraternities and sororities, which you are part of as well.
I was, yes, 80 Pi.
But sometimes special needs students are left behind when it comes to college Greek life. Clemson University has a program aimed at changing that. Clemson Life is the name of the program that focuses on special needs students getting the most out of their education, including rushing for fraternities and sororities. Aww. So when Charlie was accepted into, is it Eta Alpha or Eta Alpha?
Eta Alpha.
Eta Alpha chapter of Pi Kappa Alpha. It was caught on video, and you just can't help but smile. It appears that Charlie has Down syndrome. Here's what it sounded like when he got to do his rush into his sorority. He is so happy, running across the threshold, running across the pavilion, getting accepted into his new sorority.
It's fraternity for boys.
I'm sorry, fraternity. So used to hearing about your sorority, I forgot there's a difference.
Boom, boom.
Yes, that is a really cool story. And it's so cool that Clemson has that program available so that nobody feels left out. If they want to join Greek life, which... when I was growing up, I didn't know really what that was. I kind of had a negative connotation for some reason. I don't know. But it is...
media in the 2000s did a really negative portrayal.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think it's is it the Duke lacrosse team as well? That has something to do with it?
That didn't help, and hazing was a big thing.
Yeah.
But that's not
what it was supposed to be about.
Correct. And that was not what my experience was. Yeah. And I'm so glad that he gets to experience that and see the uplifting, positive side of Greek life, because it is really nice. It's a community full of people. Mm-hmm. You have something in common, and you have a shared purpose. Yeah. And I'm still best friends with several girls from my sorority. It's just a different kind of bond. So yeah. I think that's really neat that he gets to experience that with his fraternity.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. What's your first story?
Well, pretty close. My first story comes from North Carolina, where a new gene therapy has reversed a man's blindness just in time for the birth of his first child.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so Tyler Wilfong was born with a condition known as retinitis pigmentosa, and that's a genetic eye disorder that eventually leads to complete blindness. And there are many faulty gene copies that can lead to this condition. So Tyler was shocked to learn that the gene therapy that was being tested at Duke was the exact one that caused his vision loss.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So last spring, he received a copy of the functional gene in his eye via an injection. And within hours, he was able to see things directly in front of his face, which he had previously not been able to do. And so when his son was born just a few months ago, he was able to see him and actually participate in taking care of him and being able to do all of that.
That's incredible.
And what makes it even crazier is that one of the researchers noted that the defective gene copy that Tyler was born with is responsible for merely 1% of the 100,000 Americans that have this condition. And so reflecting on the trial, Tyler said, "It was inevitable, but I kept my faith in God, and I just had a feeling that one day something would change. And, 30 some years later, here comes this opportunity." So
that's amazing.
Just really cool guy and amazing circumstances that you can really just see God at work in, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, miraculous to say the least.
Yeah.
And glad he's able to see the birth of his son.
Yeah.
And just something probably he never expected that he was going to be able to enjoy and be blessed with. Now he is. That's really cool. That definitely is a good news story. My last couple of stories involve police officers.
Not football.
Not football.
Okay.
Not football this time. And I've said this before, I'm not always 100% back the blue, but you'll notice a lot of our stories do have to do with police officers doing heroic work because say what you want about them, they are pressed into doing that. That's their job every single day. And I don't think it's a bad thing to highlight the work that they do, especially when they do heroics like this. When Michigan officers performed a life-saving feat along a busy stretch of road just to assist a driver who was experiencing a medical emergency. The Macomb County Sheriff's Office provided footage of the harrowing act, which occurred on September 12th. That was a few weeks ago. Deputies Nicole Myron and Anthony Gross responded to the stretch of busy road after authorities received a report that a silver GMC Sierra was driving erratically. As Myron and Gross came closer to the GMC Sierra, and this is on video, you can see they're tailing this video right in the middle of the road. It's probably going 30, 40 miles an hour. So Myron and Gross came closer to that GMC. They attempted to pull the erratic driver over. Police said that the 63-year-old male driver failed to stop and continued driving at approximately 5 miles an hour. So it did slow down eventually. Body camera footage from Myron's perspective showed the pair of deputies pulling up alongside the driver. Police said that he appeared to be in a daze, unable to comprehend the requests. Authorities said he eventually pressed on the brakes, slowing the vehicle down. In a heroic move, Myron lifted herself through the driver's side of the window as the truck was moving along. She said to WXYZ TV, "Luckily, I'm very small. When I went through the window, it was a big-sized front kind of window. I was able to slide right through. I don't think any of my gun or gear touched him, so I slid right through. My small stature helped, and the fact that we were in a two-man car helped. The Clinton Township Fire Department came to the scene and treated the driver who was experiencing a medical episode."
Wow.
So she was able to climb through the windows, get him completely slowed down, get the car in park as well. Just an incredible feat of heroism from those Macomb County Sheriff's deputies in Michigan.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. What's your next story?
All right. Well, also a medical story. So my next story comes out of Washington, where a 79-year-old woman broke her leg while hiking and was carried back down the mountain by 3 young men.
Wow.
So Ursula Bannister had hiked this mountain many times before as she had scattered her mother's ashes near the top. And so this day she was going there to place some flowers. And on her way back down, her foot got caught in a hole. And when she fell to the ground, she immediately realized that her foot was facing the wrong way. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. She immediately began calling for help, and eventually 3 young men found her. They called 911, but dispatch told them it would take about 5 hours before anyone could come and help her. Exactly. So, but they realized that she was in a ton of pain and there was no way she was going to be able to wait 5 hours. So they each took turns carrying her down the mountain via piggyback. And luckily along the way, they ran into a physical therapist who made a makeshift splint
Wow.
for her leg.
That's incredible.
Right. And then eventually they made it to the hospital and she got surgery and is recovering fine, but it was a pretty extensive break. But one of the young men, Troy May, he's an Air Force airman, and he received a medal for his efforts for stepping up to the occasion. And I guess all three of the young men have visited her as she recovers, and she's just was so grateful for them. And just talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Especially with that physical therapist. And if it was just one guy hiking up, that would have been a really, really steep, no pun intended, task to get, piggyback one woman down. But the fact that they were able to take turns, and it was three of them, and then they just happened to meet a physical therapist along the way who was able to fashion a makeshift splint. I mean, that's stuff out of the movies.
It is.
That's really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, our last good news story of the weekend is from Indiana. A 3-year-old child who went missing was rescued from an above-ground pool. With dramatic footage, which I can repost again at a Real AM Update on X, dramatic footage showed the rescue captured on camera. The toddler, who has autism, went missing from the home around 2:20 p.m. on September 22nd. It's according to the Fort Wayne Police Department. They added that the department was called to the scene to help locate the frightened child. Officers searched the child's residence and the surrounding area looking for that child. Officer Evan Myers was eventually able to locate and rescue the child from the drowning in an above-ground pool. Body cam video released by police shows the officer walking in what appears to be a backyard before running towards a pool where the child could be seen floating.
Wow.
Okay. Hey. It's okay. You okay?
You can hear the officer reached into the pool.
Conscious. Go ahead, start me at 13.
Fortunately, that's one of the best sounds you can hear is crying and screaming in that moment. Reached into the pool, grabbed the toddler out of the pool, walked him back across the yard to the neighbors, and everybody is okay. That's the second time in the last month it seems like we've had just basically the exact same story.
Yes.
But so good that those officers were so aware, because when you watch the video, it's not immediately apparent from the body cam. Of course, the officer's head is a foot, or eyes are a foot above the body cam. It's not immediately apparent that a child is floating in that pool.
Yeah.
It's not apparent at all. But those officers are trained that children with autism are attracted to water, so they're extra cognizant of bodies of water or pools or things like that. And so fortunate. Just another miracle that didn't turn out any differently. And so that's objectively good news. That 3-year-old still has his life. So that is, those are, I should say, grammar is not my friend. Those are 5 what we think objectively good news stories on No Suck Saturday. When we come back, it's the 3rd edition of Ask Izzy. We're looking forward to it. We've got some questions that you submitted, and we'll talk about those next. Welcome back to No Suck Saturday. This is Ask Izzy. Ask a nurse who knows any question about health and clean living or any medical related question. We do have a couple of listener submitted questions. If you want to submit a question for Ask Izzy, you can do so. AskIzzyNSS@gmail.com. AskIzzyNSS@gmail.com. Bella, you ready to go?
I am, and we're not talking about lactation this time, so it should apply to a broader audience.
Yes.
As always, this information is not intended to diagnose, treat, or manage any disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
So we've got a couple of questions this week, both submitted from listeners, and we'll begin with Lance, who asked, what are some of the best remedies for acid reflux outside of just taking medication? That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And I will say, when I worked on a medical floor, that was one of the most common medications that was given. So the most common ones are like Prilosec, Prevacid, things like that. So these are, they're known as proton pump inhibitors, PPIs, and they work by blocking stomach acid production, which is kind of how you help absorb your nutrients and so forth. But the problem is that as you take these PPIs, they can actually cause a rebound acid production because you're constantly decreasing the amount of acid. And so then your body goes, well, crap, we need more acid. And so then it just starts making more, and then that exacerbates the problem. Another issue with them is that they're actually only intended for short-term use. If you look at what the manufacturer says, that really is just for a couple of months is all you should be using it, but you'll see people taking them for years. So yeah, I'm with you, Lance. I think there are other things that you can do for acid reflux. So some things to kind of think about would be looking at your overall diet. We want to try and eat things like lots of fruit, veggies, making sure you're getting enough protein, healthy fats. So think like olive oil, avocado, fish, butter, things like that. And trying to limit the amount of carbonated drinks, alcohol, sugar. All of those things are just going to make acid reflux a lot worse. Something else that you can do is actually boost stomach acid production, which seems counterintuitive, but actually there's a school of thought out there, at least in quite a few research studies that I looked at, are saying that that acid reflux may actually be a stomach acid deficiency, not an excess. And so we're actually making things worse by using all these PPIs.
Do you know how that works? You would think that it would be an overabundance of stomach acid that would cause acid reflux. Do you know what their thinking is in terms of why it would be a dearth of it instead of an excess?
Yeah, they're thinking that it's when you don't have enough, this is kind of your body's way of kind of overreacting.
Overcompensating. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where that research is coming out of. So some things you could supplement with would be like zinc. You could do like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a glass of water before you eat. You could look at taking digestive enzymes or bitters, things like that. And actually eating sauerkraut with your meal can help stimulate more acid.
Underrated side or underrated topping, I guess.
Yeah. And
really is.
And it's a fermented food, so it's fantastic for your gut health too. Populate with lots of good boogies. But I really do recommend, if you're struggling with having a lot of acid reflux, working with a naturopath or someone who's a little bit more functional medicine minded, because there are certain tests they can do. And for example, I had really low stomach acid after I had a really bad bout with appendicitis and a bunch of complications.
That was a nightmare.
It was not fun.
Yeah. We weren't together then, but no. I've heard about this and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was not great. If you get your appendix out, make sure they get all of it out. That's all I'll say. Yeah. But I ended up having low stomach acid, and my naturopath that I worked with was able to supplement with a specific supplement, and we just had to keep upping that dosage, but you need to be doing that with a practitioner. So all that is to say, take a look at your diet, potentially look at adding in some supplements, but I would say try and work with a provider, because honestly your PCP is not going to be able to give you anything natural. If you say, I got acid reflux, they're just going to throw a PPI at you and say, okay, eat some veggies, but there's a little more diving into it that you can do.
Okay. A couple of follow-up questions real quick. So just spitballing it, because, you've seen a lot of this you've been in various positions, both on the floor, care coordinating, so you know a lot of this type, you've seen a lot of cases, the volume of cases and the specificity of cases. You've seen a lot of these. Acid reflux in general, how much of it is genetics and how much of it is lifestyle? Just spitballing.
If I had to guess, I'd say most of it is lifestyle, because there are things that you can do to reduce it. Now, some people might be, slightly more predisposed to getting it, and certain conditions are going to exacerbate it. For example, pregnancy. You have a baby pushing on your stomach and your esophagus. It tends to make that stomach acid come back up. But that being said, there are things you can do to mitigate it. Don't lay down right after you eat. Try and, use some of those other things that I mentioned. Then there are ways to combat it. So if you have it, you're not stuck with it necessarily. There are things you can do.
All right. So the second question, you recommended finding a naturopath. Do you have any pointers for finding one near you, or is it something that you can do over telemed, something like that?
You can. There's various ways to get connected with it. Honestly, sometimes using social media is the best way to find a practitioner, because you can find certain accounts and they can either connect you with practitioners, or you can find, people through various recommendations. You can also, honestly, I believe there's a functional medicine website that you can look up and see. Honestly, even chiropractors are sometimes a good resource because sometimes they will practice functional medicine, or they know of people who have gone on and gotten different functional medicine certifications. So those are some different places to look.
And it's important to note too that when we say naturopath, if you're like totally unaware of like clean living, naturopath sounds like hippy dippy.
Yeah.
These are nurse practitioners who have, a lot of them anyway.
Some of them are. Okay. Yeah. So functional medicine in and of itself, there's a couple different routes that you can go to becoming a functional medicine practitioner. I would say the most common is someone who's gone to either nursing school, like you mentioned, or chiropractic school, or has a nutrition background or something. And then they've either gone on to become an actual functional medicine doctor, or they've become certified in functional medicine through like the Institute of Functional Medicine. There's a lot of different ways that you can become a naturopath. It's just kind of an umbrella term in the same way that a doctor is an umbrella term, because you could be an MD or a DO.
Yep. Gotcha. All right, cool. Let's go to question 2. This is from Dr. Veghead or Veghead, who asks...
I'm curious if that's your real name.
Yeah. How can a crunchy nurse working in a conventional workplace effectively advocate away from procedures that are unnecessary or even harmful? For example, circumcision, routine ultrasound, sometimes C-sections, chemotherapy, and towards alternatives. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is hard if you are somewhat, more natural minded and you're working in conventional medicine. You're always going to find yourself in that tension of, this is what medicine always says to do, and this is what, practical wisdom or common sense or more functional medicine people believe. That being said, when you are a nurse or a doctor or whatever role you're playing and you're working in conventional medicine, you have to kind of leave your own personal biases at the door. It's not your job to convince anyone. If your patient asks you questions and wants follow-up, you can present them with both sides, and you can give them, here's what this says, here's a reason that you may want to do this, here's a reason you may not want to do this. But you really cannot just be advocating patients away from procedures. Really, all you can do is educate them and maybe give them some resources to look at. I will say I saw this, it came up a few times working in med-surg, but really I feel like the biggest area was labor and delivery. Just because I would take care of a lot of patients that wanted to go unmedicated, which for those of you who don't know, that means going through labor without pain medications. And what would happen is they would not necessarily be as prepared as they maybe should have been, or maybe didn't look up things, didn't know things, whatever. And then the contractions would get intense and they would ask for pain meds or the epidural. And at that point, like, it's unethical to say, no, you can't have this. No, you can't have those drugs, because she is of sound mind. She can make her own decisions. At that point, all I can do is remind her, hey, this is what you said you wanted. Here are some other things we can try and do if you are still wanting to avoid the epidural. But if you want that epidural, I will get that for you, because ultimately it's your body, your choice. You get to take care of yourself the way that you see fit. It's not my job to tell you what to do. So,
and I don't know what Dr. Veghead or Veghead or whatever the name is. I'm not sure what they had in mind with this question, but it comes from a premise that it's the people working in medicine's job to be the ones who are informed. And it is, but it's their job to actually give the opinions. And in the case of doctors, in the case of surgeons, in the case of people like that, they can give opinions. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this is a system, and I think you would attest to this. This is a system that preys upon people coming in not being informed.
Oh, yeah.
The best you can do is inform them. The best thing you can do is remind them, but you cannot make those decisions for them, especially as a nurse.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where it's just, anytime I would take care of someone that was coming in for triage, which means they thought they were in labor, but let's just say in this case they actually weren't, and I was sending them home. And, at that point, I would have more of an in-depth conversation with them and say, hey, I think you should maybe look into researching a little bit more about, what actual labor looks like, what you really want your birth plan to look like trying to empower them.
Yes. And by the way, I need to add this as well. What you're describing here and what you described just a little bit ago, which is, I can remind them, I can inform them, I can give them plenty of options, and I can tell them what they said that they wanted. If you've got a nurse who's doing that, you've got a nurse who's probably doing better than 95% of nurses. if I had to guess.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
I'm trying to make you look good.
Oh, I know. I appreciate that. Thank you. Really that's the best thing that we can do. And I feel like that was a point of nursing school that was kind of drilled into us was, we can't coerce them. We shouldn't. They have autonomy, but all we can do is educate them, and they can choose what to do with that information. And if they set out to have an unmedicated birth and they get into it and they go, whoa, these contractions suck, I want an epidural, that's fine. That's their prerogative. And if they want to talk about it afterwards and say, you know what, next time I want to be more prepared, that's fine. Mm-hmm. It's their journey. We're just here to help them. And, when it comes to educating people, I feel like, you can, it's like my dad used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't dunk its head, you can't force them to do it. And if they want to make their choices, that's okay. We're here to support them. Yeah.
All right. Great stuff, honey. Appreciate that. That is Ask Izzy. If you have a question to ask a nurse who knows, go to askizzinss@gmail.com. Send your submissions, questions to askizzinss@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll have our highlight of the week, our question of the week, as well as an announcement. Stay tuned. All right. And back for one final segment on No Suck Saturday. You probably think that this announcement that I'm about to make is really exciting. It's really not, and I know it's supposed to be No Suck Saturday, but what I'm about to say kind of does suck. For the edition of No Suck Saturday that we do for our Apple Podcast subscribers, by the way, we appreciate each and every one of you subscribing to the ad-free AM Update experience, which includes this show every single weekend. For those who subscribe, Bella and I, during the segment that we typically do for the broader audience, Ask Izzy, we've been doing a book study on Dane Ortlund's book, Gentle and Lowly, The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. We're not going to be continuing on with that study any longer. I've thought that there have been some good things that Dane Ortlund has said. I appreciate, and I've said this as much, that he places an emphasis on understanding the heart of Christ, not pitting attributes of God against each other. And especially at the very beginning, talking about making sure that we understand that Jesus is absolutely angry with sin while at the same time being equally as merciful. And those are the types of things we don't want to pit against each other when it comes to God. The main reason why I'm doing this, I'm just going to be completely transparent, is the Ortlunds. I just want to distance myself from that name as much as I possibly can. Gavin Ortlund is just a liberal. He's just a liberal. That's Dane's brother. And he has lied and obfuscated about Megan Basham's book. I believe that's For Shepherds for Sale is the name of that book. He just completely lied, obfuscated, nitpicked, didn't actually deal with the main allegations of that book. Really made something that wasn't really about him too much about him, and lied in doing so, trying to tarnish the work that Megan Basham is doing, a woman I have a tremendous amount of respect for. So that's Gavin Ortlund. That's Dane's brother. Ray Ortlund Jr. just last weekend endorsed Kamala Harris for president. He's a fairly well-known preacher in some circles in the United States, and he endorsed Kamala Harris. And then he came back with a post, I think it's on Threads. That's where all the hipster Christians are, is on Threads, saying, well, I should have seen this coming. This was going to be misconstrued. And no, he said something along the lines of never Trump, this time Harris, always Jesus. That is communicating that you're voting for Harris. Yeah. Ray Ortlund Sr. is dead now, but he's a fairly well-known name, again, in some circles of evangelical or Protestantism in the United States. And I've seen some things about Dane Ortlund. It's very apparent that he tries to stay above it all when it comes to politics, which is a political statement in and of itself. And I've seen something. There's an article he wrote for the Gospel Coalition that was just very it just seems as this book has gone on, we're focusing more on the feminine characteristics of Jesus Christ. And for that reason, I've seen enough smoke with Dane Ortland, and I've certainly seen fire when it comes to his brother Gavin and his father Ray Ortland Jr. I just don't want to be associated with it. So, and I think you pretty much agree with that assessment as well.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's been good. The book has been fine.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be associated with them or promote their work, that family's work. I don't think I don't think the Ortland name is good news. So maybe it's not fair, but it's my show, our show. So
My show, huh?
my channel, our show. That's our show.
Okay.
All right, let's do our highlight of the week first, Bella. I will go first this week. I think it was on Tuesday evening. No, it was Monday. Because today, it was Monday evening. Mm-hmm. You had gone out with Abby to an appointment, and you had asked me, hey, can you put some fries in the oven? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And did I put fries in the oven?
You did.
I did indeed.
And they were perfect, too. Nice and crispy.
I just thought it was going to be a side. Ben and I are playing downstairs. Can hear the smell. Not hear the smell. I can smell the fries.
Special.
They're getting done. They're good. We take them out. I think, okay, I did the bare minimum for the household. I put some fries in. I didn't burn them. They weren't soggy. Okay, success. So I get Abby out of her car seat while you go get the fries. You had returned from your appointment as soon, kind of when the fries were just about done. And I go and get Abby out from her nap because she was sleeping. Get her out, get her up, take her back out to the kitchen. I'm playing with the kids as you're finishing up supper in the living room. I wasn't really paying attention to what you were doing over there. And finally you say, okay, everything's ready. And I come into the kitchen, and what's on my plate?
Poutine.
I've never had poutine before. I didn't expect to wake up on just a regular random Monday morning in September, late September, and expect to have poutine on my plate for supper that day. And yet, that's exactly what happened, thanks to Bella. No idea she was going to make this. I've always wanted to try poutine, but because I have celiac with the gravy, it's just really hard to find. And it's like, sometimes it's just like too much effort. It's like, yeah, that sounds good, but too much effort to actually make. Well, you did it this time with the chicken that you made as well. You took the drippings, made that into some really good gravy. And I've got to say, poutine lived up to kind of the idea that I had for it.
Good.
It was really good. And then the leftovers we had, as we're taping this on Wednesday night this week, the leftovers that we had were just as good as, if not better, than the original version on Monday.
Oh, good.
So it was really good. French fries, gravy.
Cheese curds. Yeah.
And just wonderful stuff. Really rich, but really good. So that's my highlight of the week. It's a meal that you made for me.
Sweet. Oh, that's very sweet. Well,
it was just a surprise. I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah,
it was really good.
I like to do that. I mean, I'm always listening when you mention things that you like. I may not say a whole lot in the moment, but I'm filing them away for later.
Understood. What's your highlight?
My highlight of the week is kind of an overall highlight for the last couple of weeks, and probably something that's going to keep happening these next couple of weeks. But Ben, for whatever reason, is absolutely obsessed with a Halloween decoration from Target. His name is Lewis. So he's this like super tall, I think he's like 8 feet tall, animatronic jack-o'-lantern that talks. And I took Ben to Target a couple weeks ago because I needed something, and we happened to walk by the Halloween decorations, and for whatever reason, I was not expecting this. He fell in love with this animatronic pumpkin. So the highlight of my week is taking Ben to Target just because he's so happy.
Yeah, he is.
Acts like I've taken him to Disney World and he's seeing Mickey Mouse. Like, it's that level of excitement. Like, as soon as we go in the door, he's just going to see Halloween decorations, going to see Lewis. Yes, Ben, that's where we're going. And if I have to stop and get things along the way, he just keeps checking with me. Like, we're going to go see Lewis. I'm like, yes, don't worry. We're going to see your pumpkin. So anyways, it's just kind of fun because I love Halloween. I know, bad, homeschooler over here. I don't like the spooky stuff. I'm here because I like candy and, pumpkins. That's really
you
what
like the aesthetic. You like the fall aesthetic.
I do.
Yes.
I do. And I think trick-or-treating is kind of fun. So it's just kind of cute getting to do little bits and pieces with Ben. And, if it means talking to an animatronic pumpkin, I can handle that.
Well, yeah, it's I can confirm. I mean, Ben woke up from a nap one day, one of the few that he actually takes, and just for about an hour straight, at least 45 minutes, maybe an hour straight, just rattling off nonsense about doing things with Bruce and Lewis, just like doing random things. Gonna go fishing with Bruce and Lewis. I didn't even know what Ben knew what fishing was.
Me either.
He was going hunting for fish.
Hunting for fish.
That's
Hunting
what he
for
was
fish.
doing.
Yeah, and Bruce is another animatronic.
Yes.
He's an animatronic skeleton that raps.
So that's inside the mind of our 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And it's always a fascinating place. It's like having a very inquisitive, rambunctious drunk around you all the time.
Yeah. He's
very cute.
He's a happy drunk at least.
Yeah, we love him. All right, what's our question of the week?
All right, our question of the week is, what is something that you think people would be surprised to know about you?
This is always my answer to this question, but I really actually like electronic dance music.
I love that about you.
I don't know why. I don't even
really
dance to it. But like Calvin Harris, I love that. Especially during the spring and summer where it feels a little bit more appropriate. But I love EDM, all sorts of EDM. I know, is Daft Punk still technically electronica?
Yeah, it's a little iffy.
Yeah, it's kind of electronica EDM, but Empire of the Sun, they have some really good stuff. I'm forgetting a bunch of groups. There are some really like under the radar French groups. What is it? Justice?
Yeah, Justice is good. Oh, what's it? Galantis?
That's good. I'm not sure. Are they French?
I don't know if they're French, but
Galantis is really good.
Yeah.
What is I can't remember the other one, but French EDM too. That's really good stuff.
Yeah.
Australia and France have some really good EDM music. And so that's kind of, I don't know.
That's fun.
I don't listen to it a ton, but I do actually kind of like it. It's really weird and really odd, I know, but
it's honestly one of my favorite things I learned about you when we were dating, because I don't know, I didn't really have a good read on what I expected your taste in music to be, but it wasn't that. But it was perfect because that's what I listen to, especially when I work out. Yeah. It's fantastic for that.
What about you?
Probably something I just don't talk about a whole lot was I really used to love to write, and I still do a little bit. I just don't show anybody with it, but I took a creative writing class back in high school, and I used to write a lot of like poetries and short story, and my poor parents received that for Christmas gifts many years in a row. It's like, here's the inside of my teenage brain. Here's some poetry for you. They probably were like, can we just get a gift card instead? But yeah, and I used to love to write.
I have seen some of your stuff. It's really good.
Oh,
you
thanks.
Are writing again.
Yes.
But
not in poem form.
Not in poem form. More on that in a year.
TBD.
Yes. Well, that's another edition of No Sucks Saturday, available to the broader audience of AM Updates. If you are not a subscriber and you just want to say thank you for this monthly episode, if you're not a subscriber, or if you want to listen to the AM Update without ads and get every edition of No Sucks Saturday, you can do so. Apple Podcasts only for now. And you can do that on Apple Podcasts. $5 a month. Just look for the subscribe button for the AM Update ad-free experience. Thank you for listening this Saturday. Hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your weekend. For everybody, we'll be back at it again on Monday for AM Update. Have a good one.